Hello there, friends of the PipeCat channel. Larry here once again. And today, I want to talk about something. A couple of things. I have found it therapeutic lately to talk about personal items. You know, I've talked about my friend Kevin who passed away. We won't talk about him this time. I'm going to let his subject rest for a while. But one of the subjects that Kevin and I had been speaking about just before he passed away was the medications that we each needed to be on for various reasons. I edited out some conversation about a neurologic problem that I had been suffering from for 2 years. Well, I went to go see a neurologist, and he did an EMG test on me. I'm not sure exactly what that stands for. I can't really remember now. But that's where they stick you with the little, pinprick probes, and they fire. They put a receptor down one end, and they put a probe over a nerve junction, and they fire some sort of an electrical current through it. It's like a little bolt of lightning, and it runs between the point where it's entered and the point where it's measured, and they are checking the reaction of the muscles and the nerves, I guess, between the 2 points. Well, he came back to me and said, "Well, something's not quite right. You're not a lost cause, but something's causing problems in your nervous system." And the other symptoms, the less major symptoms, were, for instance, rib pain, the attachment of muscles to my ribs. My ribs were also spasming terribly. Being a musician and holding a guitar with that cold wood against my chest was becoming impossible. That was another one of the reasons why I sought medical attention at that point. So this doctor said to me, "Let's try you on a rather harmless," he called it, medication called Gabapentin, or like I said earlier, Neurontin. Mine is kind of generic; it just says Gabapentin on the package. So anyway, I started out taking. Well, I ramped up from maybe 300 milligrams a day. After a couple of weeks, I was at 900 milligrams a day. That was 3 capsules, 3 times a day. And I did it exactly, and I still have been doing it, in 8-hour turns. So at 6 in the morning, I took 3 pills. At 2 in the afternoon, I took 3 pills. At 10 o'clock at night, I took 3 pills. And I have been doing that religiously, almost without a lapse for almost 2 years. Now, what I want to talk about is what happened to me taking gabapentin, and now what's happening to me as I try to get back off of it. So that's something I thought might be of some interest to some people out there. A lot of guys and women in my age group. At this age, you begin to have pain issues, issues in the extremities, things like that. And I'm not talking about arthritis and things like that. That's common to just about everyone at my age, mid-50s. But for those of you suffering from neurological issues and someone is offering gabapentin to you, let me tell you what my experience with it was. Now, before I begin in the details of how that went, I'm going to do what I do on my channel. I'm going to have a pipe. And today, the blend I'm going to be smoking, I bought a few from this maker recently, and this is the latest one I'm going to check. It's Captain Earle's, and it's Captain Earle's 10 Russians. Try to get that in focus. Captain Earle's 10 Russians. I bought mine from Eddie Gray at the Pipe Nook, and I have not tried it yet, but I have opened this package. I just opened it. I've loaded a pipe with it. I have not lit it. Let me show you what it looks like. Like all of the Captain Earle's blends, it is a crumble cake. This crumble cake is soft and kind of spongy and comes apart very easily. It's very easy to pinch a corner off that and rub it out, and you end up with sort of like a shag flake. A shag cut, I should say, not a flake. And you can see the colors in there. And 10 Russians is all about Latakia, smoky Latakia. Let me see what else is in there. See if they even mention it. True delight for lovers of Latakia, rich and full-bodied, 10 Russians is pressed to deliver a perfectly balanced blend to the true aficionado of full English tobaccos. Getting a ping from my sister. I'll answer that later. So, let's have a smoke and get rapping about Gabapentin. First try, mind you. So far, I have been in love with the Captain Earle's blends. And I've tried Stimulus Package, which I have a private stock. And I have also purchased Honor Blend and have not tried it yet. 10 Russians. Ten Russians has gotten a special mention on many of the pipe reviewers and tobacco reviewers' websites. Considered one of the stronger ones. Now, having gotten through the, I want to call it first light, and letting it go out, champing it a bit, and relighting it for real. Now I'm going to tell you what the flavor is. First of all, it's hard to tell at the beginning of a bowl what something's really going to taste like. But that first impression is worth mentioning. This one, it is. Oh yeah, that's real Latakia. It's smoky, but not as smoky as I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be the strongest Latakia product in the Captain Earle's family. Much less so than Stimulus Package. Stimulus Package to me was that's Latakia. That is strong and, well, I mean, not sickeningly strong, but powerful, smoky, rich, and a little sweet. This one is moderately strong. I mean, it's pretty good. It's pretty strong. I'm feeling a kick. And it is smoky, and it is a little bit sweet. Not as sweet as the Stimulus Package. Not probably as complex as private stock. But I'm picking up a very interesting and unexpected a tangy sort of now I'm taking a guess because the ingredients aren't on the can and I haven't gone to all the websites to see what's in it, but it feels like Orientals to me. Tastes like Orientals. And that lighter leaf that you can see in there is probably some sort of Virginia. Although Orientals are light looking too. You can see a lot of black Latakia in there though. Maybe even, I don't know, maybe a touch of black Cavendish? Maybe not. Again, I'm not here to discuss the formulation. I'm just telling you what my experience is. Well, it's still a little moist, so it keeps going out on me. I didn't let it dry out long enough. I only opened the package about a half an hour ago. I pinched off what I was going to use. I rubbed it out. I put it on a flat surface. And I let it sit probably about 15 minutes. I don't think that was quite long enough. It's still a little bit damp. It'll stay lit, but you have to work at it. Got to get that big spark going in the middle, that big ball of spark. Anyway, yep, Latakia, evenly matched with some sort of, I'm guessing Orientals or Turkish. It's got a sort of an herbal tang over the strong Latakia. And There's just sort of a playful hint of sweetness in there. It's really nice. I see why people buy 10 Russians a lot. I see why people talk about it. I will tell you this. The tin note that I got when I opened it up, the tin note and the flavor, you know, the actual first draft or first few draws, they are not that similar. The tin note reminds me very much of another blend that I love a lot. Comoys, C-O-M-O-Y, Comoys Cask Number 11. It's a very rich Latakia, smoky smoke. And I love it. I have loved it for years. And this can smells exactly like that can smells. But they don't taste alike. Comoys is more of a straight up and down sort of narrow spectrum of flavors, but nice. Just the ones I like. This one, a broader spectrum of flavors. A little more dimension to it. And I'm liking it an awful lot. So, I will have this pipe as I talk to you, and if anything new happens during the smoke, I'll let you know. I want to talk about Gabapentin. I want to talk about my experience with it. And as with anything that people want to talk about on the internet, if you're using it too, then your mileage may vary from mine. But 2 years ago, I was pretty much in agony and was afraid that I was heading for a wheelchair. I'm a fat guy. I'm not a very tall guy. But I guess you could say I'm a pretty strong guy. And I've always been, despite my looks, despite my weight, I've always been an animated person. I don't like to sit by and watch other people doing things that I should be doing for myself and things like that, and physical things. You know, whenever I can do it, I get in there and do it myself, or I learn how to do it. When I go camping, I don't sit in a chaise lounge drinking beer and waiting for someone to make me a burger. No. I take my nephew with me, young man, tall, thin, very strong young kid, and we walk, we hike the mountains, we hike the trails, we'll even hike a swamp, looking for whatever is there. Then we bring our cameras and stuff with us, and we get physical about it. I've tried hiking the trails at a.k.a. National Park, which is up in Maine. That's Bar Harbor, Maine. The trails climb up rocks that were just a little too tall for me, but I would have done it if I was just a little bit taller. So what I'm saying is, I try to get out, and I've always tried to be active. As a musician, a performer, I'm very animated. I don't go crazy and headbang, but I try to move around. I try to be a presence, because you should really be the center of attention if you're going to be a performer. So with my looks, nobody expects me to move around much, so just as an attention getter, I move around. So, all that said, basically, I'm not a jock. I really don't do any sports. That's one thing I've never been built for, no particular sport, because I could never run because of uneven hips. But anyway, telling you all that because when my neurological issue hit me and I started having Charlie horses in my legs, I've been having problems with manual dexterity started to happen after a while. Some people say they get trigger finger, which I've had. Some people will blame that on carpal tunnel, especially a lot of guitar players. I was having whole trigger hand. My 4 fingers would just come forward like that, and they just want to shake, and they couldn't relax. It was neurologic. It was causing this muscle to fire, causing my calf muscles to fire, causing my diaphragm. Well, not so much the diaphragm, because that's under your breathing, but the rib attachments, like what might support a fat, big stomach like I've got. Those muscles were complaining loudly. And I would feel blooms of pain across the lowest part of my ribs. I'd just feel, it would start in a little pinpoint. And I'd say, what the hell is that? And it kind of would feel like as if somebody had taken their knuckle and just punched you. One little point. And you get that one sore point. You're like, oh, you bastard. But then it would grow. And nothing hit me, mind you. This was just of its own volition. And it would flower out. And the pain, like a forest fire, would burn across the bottom of my ribs slowly. Take about 5 minutes to get all the way across the other side. And when it was done, I would be a mess. The pain was almost unbearable. The worst time that it ever happened to me, I was playing bass in a band in a town called Southborough, Massachusetts. And we were in a sort of a little dinner club. If you're from the area, it was Owen O'Leary's. Anyway, we were playing in there, and I was playing bass, and I was singing a song by 38 Special. And the song was Hold On Loosely, by the way. And we were a pretty good band, and I had made it to the end of the song. We were doing the outro. Hold on loosely, but don't let go. Singing and playing with the bass against my chest, with an open door at the other end of the room because it was hot in there. I mean, it was cool outside, but it had become hot in the room with people dancing, moving around. Someone had opened a door, and the cold breeze was just sort of knifing its way down a little corridor between people and tables and just making it to my side. And that's what initiated the little punch right there on the rib. And I felt it while singing. And I know what happens to me when it comes. And I said, uh-oh, let's hurry up and get through this song. I got to ask the manager, who's a keyboard player, a guy named Frank, and ask him for a break. And that was my plan. So I just kept singing until I couldn't breathe to sing any longer. And I just kind of stood back from the microphone and kept playing the bass until I couldn't play my bass any longer, and I had to get it away from my chest. And then at the end of the night, when we had to carry stuff outside, I needed all kinds of help. Now, mind you, it had passed by the end of the night. It had fully passed, but I was sore. You're sore from the spasm. Try to imagine a muscle that is gripping and flexing as absolutely hard as it can. Not as hard as you would will it to do, but as hard as it can. Which, if you're not commanding that motion, you are suffering from it. So, that's what I had endured, and when it finally released, it left me a mess. Basically like a jellyfish. I was useless. And it was after that night that I said, this is something debilitating is happening. I'm afraid I might have some disease of some kind. Something. I don't know what. Some condition. And that's when I started the battery of doctors and the battery of tests. And not once, even to today, has anyone said to me, what you have is called this. I never seen so many highly paid specialists, some of the top neurologists in the world, doing this so many times. I don't know. Gee, wow. I've never seen that before. Never. And they looked at all my images. I was in that MRI machine so many times. I'll never do that again. And I underwent that probably about, 10 times. On the legs, on the ribs, on the back of the neck. Because they were looking for anything, maybe a nerve pinch in there. They wanted a picture of all the vertebrae. I had to get a neck series. I had to get the thoracic series, whatever, the lumbar series. They did my hips. They did my legs. To be trapped in that machine, and I'm sure many of you have, is like going through hell. Finally, I ended up in the office of one particular neurologist. I won't say his name for professional reasons, for HIPAA reasons even. If I want to talk about it myself, that's one thing. But I'm not going to tell you the medical professional I saw. He was good. He was caring. He was attentive. He was the first one I'd met so far that didn't just say, well, try this, well, try that. This guy was old school. Still is. Very good man. He's got this old, tattered leather doctor's bag. When I saw that, I was like, this is going to be interesting. And he put that down on the table next to him in the exam room. And he reached in there and he took out tuning forks and hammers and went through all the whole 9 yards. And the little, open up a safety pin and telling me, don't look, can you feel this? And I'm like, yes, I can feel that, Jesus. whole thing. He's done that at least 3 times with me. And each time he wrote down every reaction. I mean, I was amazed. In that doctor's shorthand that they do, I was amazed watching him. I'm like, you're really thorough. He's like, well, I want to know what's attacking you so I can get some idea. He's the one who said, I know you're not a pill popper, Larry. I know you've been saying that the whole time. You don't want to live on medications. Well, there's this one medication that you might find fairly harmless, and it's called Gabapentin. He goes, and this medication, there are people who are taking doses of 1,800 mil a day, 2,000, whatever. People are taking big doses of this stuff, and it works on them, and it's got probably as few side effects as you can have in a neurological medication. They use it to treat, it's effective for many things. You got to be careful when someone tells you that a medication is used to treat something, because that doesn't mean that that's what you have, okay? When someone says it's helpful for people with epilepsy, it's helpful for people who have seizures, it's helpful for people who have focusing problems and have, clinical depression. It treats so many things. It's helpful for extremity pain due to nerve issues, and that's why he gave it to me. So I ramped up on it, and now for 2 years, I've been taking 900 mil a day, which they tell me is a fairly moderate dosage. Now, I'm a big fat dude. I'm upwards of 300 pounds. And 900 a day for a guy my size is probably going to be like 600 a day for a pretty average person. It's a pretty harmless dose, I guess. Now, what they didn't tell me, and what I didn't see coming, and I don't want to frighten you if this is something that you're thinking about taking, in rare cases, and you know me, if there's going to be bad luck out there, I'm going to trip on it. In rare cases, one of the side effects can be tinnitus. Some people say tinnitus. And that's a ringing in your brain that sounds like a high-pitched frequency to your ear. It's not actually your ear. It's up here. You hear it ring. I hear it ring in the middle of my head. And it sounds like a whistle. And being a musician, I can tell you that mine rings at a high C sharp. It's like a note. One continuous note that wavers a little bit like this. Not quite up to a D, not quite down to a C, but a C sharp. Yeah, it's wavering. And that happened in the 6th week of my full dosage of gabapentin. And what they said was, without even knowing about tinnitus, they said to me, it'll take about 6 weeks for this to kick in and do what it's going to do and become at its full potency in your body. It takes about a month and a half, maybe 2 months. Well, in my case, reaching full potency, one night I was lying on my bed, and it was probably about, toward the end of July of 2017. I was watching a baseball game. The Boston Red Sox were playing. I'm from Massachusetts. I'm watching the Red Sox. And I remember that they broke for commercial, and all of a sudden, in my left ear, there was this instant, ungodly, screaming whistle. I know that many of you have experienced this before. It hit, and I wasn't expecting it. It was like, ooh, what the hell? Not on the right side, on the left side. And I said, oh my God, I hope this passes. Wow. And it wasn't pain, it was the lack of sensation that was frightening. I heard the whistle, and I sort of felt a little numb on this side of my head, right around my ear and my temple. A little numb, kind of dead feeling. I was like, ooh, what's that? And then that feeling, not the whistle, but the feeling, in the course of about a minute, migrated across the top of my head and just kind of landed there and stood static in the top toward the back of my head, in my brain. And it stayed kind of hanging there. The whistle had begun to diminish. And the strangest thing was, when the whistle reached the bottom of its volume, and it was like, ee, and it kind of went out like a candle flame, right after that, a new thing started. And it went, ee, and it went from temple to temple, and right in the center of my brain. And it just went, ee, and it is still there today. That is called tinnitus. That's how mine started. In the middle of a Red Sox game, lying on my side, not even drinking or anything like that. Nothing. Might have had a bottle of water with me. And I got scared. No one wants to hear a ringing in their brain. It's like an alarm going off telling you something's going to happen to me. What's going to happen? Am I going to have a stroke? That's what I was thinking. And I was terrified. And I called my doctor's number, and of course he's not on at that hour. And I left a message. An operator called me back and said, "Do you want the on-call doctor?" I said, "No, I want to talk to my doctor." He said, "Well, he's not available. Call back tomorrow." So I called back the next morning, thinking maybe I'll sleep this off. When I woke up in the morning, it was exactly the same. I heard it as I was trying to go to sleep. I heard it as I was waking up. It's not like an actual sound. It's not in your ears. It's just there. It's there whenever you're awake. You could be listening to a jet take off 10 feet from your head, but you'll still hear this. It's not a sound. It's an impulse in your brain. Now, gabapentin's job is to slow the nerve impulses between the neurons so that your muscles don't fire on their own, if possible. In other words, the nerve impulse is slowed. It's made to run through syrup just a little bit until maybe the impulse doesn't make it to the end, because it's not a voluntary impulse. It's involuntary. Therefore, if you trip it up, it might just go away and never happen. Gabapentin did help with that. The Charlie horses, the rib pain especially, diminished from that 6th week. So I knew it was at full potency. It was working, but it also gave me that. So, 2 years later, very recent findings with me, which incorporated looking at my old medical records as well as newer developments and my reaction to the gabapentin. First of all, my doctor told me, "I don't think it's gabapentin doing this to you, Larry, because it doesn't do that." And I said, "But doc, if you go on the medical websites, which you really shouldn't probably do, but I did. I didn't want to panic Google. I didn't want to poogle. But when that happens to you, you poogle." And I was looking up gabapentin and tinnitus. Is there a relationship? And believe it or not, there were some doctors who said that they've applied gabapentin to people with tinnitus to try to get rid of it. Other people said, "I had this ungodly ringing in my head. I had to get off the stuff." And I said, well, there's hope then. If someone somewhere out there has had this happen to them after taking gabapentin, had reached its full potency, then there's hope. Maybe if I get off it, this might go away. And I also read some cases that said it took up to 2 years for this to stop after the gabapentin was stopped, which would be kind of a strong argument that said maybe it wasn't the gabapentin doing it. It's possible that it's coincidental, but I'm pretty convinced after 6 weeks of being on the stuff, for this to suddenly start at the time that they told me that it would reach full potency, well, what else would you think? I hadn't done anything else, and there wasn't any other medications. Of course, I'm diabetic, so I take metformin a couple times a day. I don't shoot insulin anymore. I did years ago, but I don't anymore. Well, now I'm getting off gabapentin. That's what this video is really about. For the past few weeks, I've been weaning myself down off of it. Like I said, 3 pills, 3 times a day, around the clock. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Well, for the first week, I went 3, 3, 2. 3, 3, 2. For the second week, I went 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, 2. And now, this week, I am down to 222, 222. Next week, I'll be down to 122, and so forth. You don't want to get off it quickly. You can't do that. With a neurological medication, you do run the risk of stroke or some other thing happening. Now, I can tell you that in the last week or so, the tinnitus in my head, the tinnitus in my head, has begun to do strange things. It's begun to waver, flicker, and act weird. And it's not pleasant because it's an attention grabber. You could be driving, and all of a sudden your head's like, ee. Ooh, what the hell was that? Anything goes on inside your brain, you're going to panic. Well, I'm beginning to learn not to panic anymore. First of all, it's pointless. If it's going to kill you, it's going to kill you. But it hasn't killed me, and I haven't had a stroke. I haven't had, well, if I've got depression, then I've had the same one I've had all my life. This isn't causing it. So anyway, in a nutshell, today's video, summation. Captain Earle's 10 Russians is awesome. A lot of Kia, smoky blend, a little oriental in it. Nice. It's very flavorful. It's very assertive. This is my first bowl I've ever had of it, and I'm already loving it. Halfway through that bowl, it's delicious. So, Captain Earle's, 2 big thumbs up. Gabapentin, Neurontin. If you're taking it and you have a different experience than mine, I'd love to know what it is. Leave me a comment. For those of you who have been on it and are thinking about getting off it, do it slowly, like I'm doing. I'm not feeling any other real symptom other than, like I said, the tinnitus is acting funny, which tells me that it's affected by the dosage. That's a positive thing to me. That means maybe when I'm off it completely, it'll fizzle out. Because tinnitus, they say, is the 2 halves of your brain communicating with each other across the neurons or the neurotransmitters that don't really touch, but they fire across each other. Little bolts of electricity with information. What does gabapentin do? It slows nerve impulses. What's your brain made of? Nerves. Maybe the communication between the 2 loads, the 2 halves, is having to run through the same syrup that my leg and rib muscles impulses have to run through. When that happens, and you break stride of the communication across the 2 halves of your brain, it probably starts ringing. That's probably like static. Well, maybe it's not that scary. Maybe that's all it is. So, that's my story about gabapentin. I'll let you know how it feels when I'm completely off it, and whether or not the tinnitus is still there. I'm going to say goodbye now. I'm going to relight this and finish enjoying my bowl of Captain Earle's 10 Russians. And as always, thank you for visiting my channel. I know I talk about some pretty weird stuff. Some pretty random stuff. But sometimes I hope what I say is useful to you. And I hope this has been, for those of you to whom it applies. So, thank you again. Have a great day.